in this lesson, we're going to talk about evaluating functions at a certain input. So we're going to have an input right after this F or whatever letter it is. And that input is going to go in the place of X into our equation. So we're plugging that number in for X or whatever variable comes after the equal sign. So in the case of the second one, it's being plugged in for N. So we're going to take our equation. It doesn't really matter if you write f of x, and you're going to plug your input in to that expression. So we have our 4 times our -9 is -36. And then we take away 4, and that's -40. So that means if we were to have the graph f of x equals 4x minus 4, and you went to the x-axis at the -9, the y value would be -40, or the f of x. So when you see this f of x, h of n, p of a, all of this, try not to let it overwhelm you. Really, you're just plugging in this number in for whatever the variable is. So if we try this one, instead of n squared, we're going to do 9 squared. And we're going to put in parentheses just in case this number were to be negative. We want our calculator to do this correctly. So you can use PEMDAS, or you can put this whole thing in your calculator. 100% up to you. Just make sure you're using your negatives correctly. 9 squared is 81. And 81 take away 5 is 76. So we're really just making sure we plug our number in. Sometimes you have to plug it in more than once. So in this case, it's 2 to the 3rd plus 5 times 2. 2 to the 3rd power is 8, because 2 times 2 times 2 is 4, and 4 times 2 is 8. 5 times 2 is 10. This one would turn out to be 18. This one here, we'll plug in the 7 for x. -3 parentheses 7 squared plus 1. If you're using PEMDAS, make sure you definitely do your exponents first. So you're going to drop down the -3 and square the 7, getting 49. That times that is 147 negative plus 1. Which is -146. So if you do follow PEMDAS, just make sure you're really careful with your order. I think most of these are pretty repetitive based on these ones we've seen, but if you need to practice extra, you're more than welcome to follow along with me or to stop the video and to practice. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 minus 4 is 2. Over here, I really like this one. This is showing the importance of parentheses. So when you input something, please use parentheses. So this will end up being 100. That's positive plus 2, which is 102. So if we don't use those parentheses, we'll get a completely different answer. Same thing here. We want to use those parentheses. It may not matter when the exponent is odd, but I would still use them. So that ends up being 8, and it's a -8. If you do that in your calculator, if you're doing it yourself, you could do negative times negative is +4, times -2 is -8. Take away 1 is -9. So you can use PEMDAS even when you're doing your exponents. Last but not least on this one, another one where you need to make sure you do exponents first. So negative times negative is positive. We're squaring it, so we're multiplying it by itself. 3 times 36 is 108, I believe, yeah. And then -5 is 103. I'm trying a few of these without a calculator. So if there's any minor errors, that may be why. But the key thing on these is you can use PEMDAS, you can plug it into your calculator exactly like it looks. They're both going to get you the same answer. Just go through them slow, double check. and make sure that you're not too worried about this term in the front. You're really just plugging the number in for the variable and working out the rest via PEMDAS or your calculator. And as always, just let me know if you have questions. This hopefully is a little bit of a review from Algebra 1, but if you need to rewatch or pause the video or just really ask any questions, feel free.